1970, we sure we did the forefront. Knowledge for selfish, for sure we did the work. Auditorium to basement of all faculty of law. We did represent, stand tall anywhere we go. We work hard and we shine, commitment, dedication. Neurosurgery, comedy, music, Nollywood. SOTK, Dr. Call, MC Casino. We did represent, stand tall anywhere we go. Great Uniben, great Uniben, great Uniben.
Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode of the Uniben Alumni Series. As you know, this is a show where we celebrate Uniben alumni and then we listen to their stories, hoping it inspires current students and young alumni of the University of Benin. And on today's episode, we have a distinguished alumnus with us, a man of different progressive paths. He's Dr. Gabriel Okorodudu. Dr. Gabriel Okorodudu is the Medical Director, the Eye Hospital, Benin City. He's also the Managing Director of Fanville Limited. Most interestingly, or most importantly for him, is the founder of Africa Cataract Eye Foundation. It is a foundation that they provide free cataract for people in the Niger Delta, free eye operation and all that. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Gabriel Okorodudu, he holds a Bachelor of Pharmacy from our university, University of Benin, in 1981. He also holds MBBS from our university also in 1991. And then initially the it was Bachelor of Pharmacy. Now it is from D, it is a Doctor of Pharmacy at the university. Sir, you got into University of Benin in 1976. That's just 6 years after the establishment of the institution, and you went to study pharmacy. Was it because you were in Benin, you resided in Benin, that's why you opted for the University of Benin, or were there other reasons why you choose University of Benin, taking into consideration that the university was just quite young at that time?
First of all, let me thank you for the good work you do. I have watched a couple of your interviews, and I must say you are doing a lot for the university and our alumni community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
When I went to school back then, we used to do what they called concessional entrance examination into universities. So you actually could choose as many universities as you wanted. I know that year I applied to a couple of universities, University of Nsukka, University of Nigeria Nsukka, one of them, that campus. And by 76, when I left high school, they offered me biochemistry at the University of Nigeria Nsukka. I actually had resumed at Nsukka University, but one fortunate Saturday afternoon while I was taking a nap, somebody tapped me on the bed and said, "Your father is around." I said, "My father? What's my father doing here?" So lo and behold, I opened the door. My dad was there with my eldest brother, Mr. Alex Okorodudu, who used to work for Guinness then. And my dad just said, "Pack your load, my son. You're coming with me to Benin, to the university there. They offered you pharmacy." I didn't even know they had offered me pharmacy. He said, "So you're going to go do a professional course." That's how I left University of Nsukka, ended up in University of Benin to do pharmacy. Pharmacy was good. It was good, but I must be upfront here. I always wanted to do medicine.
Okay.
So even up to my third year in pharmacy, I wanted to change to medicine. My father then insisted and said, "No, my son, I've almost finished training you as a professional. as a pharmacist, you will please finish this one. Anytime you say you want to go back and study medicine, that will be on you. So, of course, I finished pharmacy, and I must tell you, pharmacy has continued to be the base of my life. It afforded me a chance to understand the business world. So today, though I'm a doctor, but my background training in pharmacy has always gone with me.
Okay. And before we talk about you going back to study medicine at the University of Benin, for those of us that are we are young alumni, we are very recent. We hear about the stories of how the university was like in the early days, in the 70s and 80s. What was it like? How was the general perception? How was the environment of the university then?
You're very correct. You know, I think that we owe our nation, those people of my generation, we owe the nation Nigeria a wealth of gratitude. When I got into the university, that was a few years after the university had just been created. We were at the Boer campus, and I remember this with vividly. We used to be in each of the rooms about 2 people to a room. The people who came in before us, invariably just 1 to a room.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, you can imagine how that university was. You had just 1 roommate, you know, and everything was actually catered for. You finished your laundry, your dirty laundry, you put it out there, they wash it and they brought them back to you. It was a beautiful life. The cafeteria was just like, basically, they fed us any number of meals you wanted to eat. You know, on the Saturdays and the Sundays when we had real good buffets, you know, you almost having like half a chicken or a quarter chicken. It was nice, and you could take coffee, Milo, whatever you wanted to, as many times as you wanted. So because they were just there, nobody really went after them. You just took what you wanted and you left. But I must tell you, going to school then was good, and they brought us up well. It's helped us today to be the people we are. We had a rounded education. I am grateful to the university for what they had done with me. I sit where I am today, and I stand where I am today because of what I got from that university. And so when I give back to my community now, it's because the university gave me something, and it behooves me to give back to the community from where I have come. Uniben is not the Uniben you saw. I saw Uniben with 2 eyes. Anyway, I saw in the 80s, and I saw near in the 90s, and they were not the same. It was different.
So what was the difference?
I don't know. Maybe with the benefit of being out in the West now, somehow the people here are able to stick with the planning of things. They don't overcrowd things. There seems to be this urge for us to overpopulate the place. And once you do that, you definitely, the other end of what you're going to get is a lowering of standards. That invariably is what has happened. You can imagine when we went to university and we were 2 to a room, you can imagine how many, the access we had to our lecturers. It was almost that one-on-one personal thing with your lecturers. So you were bound to be a more rounded student. Unlike now, if you had these large, huge numbers, where you go into one of the hostels in the university now, you may have close to 5, 6, 10 people in one room. That's not conducive for good learning.
Yeah. I quite understand. Sir, you finished your Bachelor of Pharmacy in 1981, and you went back in 1986 for your MBBS.
Yes.
That's about 5 years in between. And you had initially wanted to study medicine. That was your first choice. Why did it take that long for you to go back to school? Was there a rethink, or did you have doubt of going back?
Oh no, not at all. I always knew it was almost a lifelong thing between me and my mom. When I was 5 years old, one fortunate day, one fateful day, our maid then had just dressed me up. I was looking very nice, and I was walking towards my mom. And she looked at me, raised her head, and said, "You are my son that is going to be a doctor." 5 years old, I never forgot it. Stuck in my head. My mom says I will be a doctor. So I knew I was always going to go and study medicine. No matter what I did, I wanted to go to medicine because of my mom. When I finished pharmacy Benin, I opted and went to Lagos to work. But as a young man, I'd found a young lady then in the University of Benin that I knew I was going to get married to. And I calculated, why don't you marry your girlfriend and put her in the house? Rather than her be a girlfriend for 10 or so years, and then you ultimately marry her. So I married very early. I think I was one of the first to get married in our group. So by the time I was finishing my youth service, I was already married.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I was working in Lagos. I was working as a medical rep with Hoffman La Roche in Dopemu. But you see, because I got married that early, I had a young family. I needed to cater for my family, stabilize myself. So one fateful day, while I was at work, my director came up to me and said he wanted to promote me. I was enjoying my work in the field as a sales rep. So they promoted me to a product manager, and that meant I needed to come into the office. I looked at it. If I get too comfortable with these new jobs they're offering me, I will not go back to med school. Mm-hmm. So I said, I told my boss, I said, let me go home and discuss with my wife. So I got home and I called the young lady and I said, look, they offered me a job, a promotion, but I'm not going to take it. I'm going to turn it down. I said, what are you talking? I said, I'm going to turn it down. If I take this job, I'm not going to go back to med school. And it's not going to happen. I must go back to med. So I went back on Monday, went to my director and said, unfortunately, sir, I can't take the job, but I will have to resign. He was shocked. He thought I was kidding. I resigned, I left, and I came back, brought my family. Then it was 4 of us, my wife and 2 kids. Mm-hmm. So I brought them back to Benin, set up a drugstore in Benin, which is Farmville Limited. And then I started trying to get back into the university. A couple of years later, they gave me a slot. I went in as a direct candidate. That's why it wasn't as if I lost. No, I didn't. I knew this was what I was born to do. Cool. So eventually I went back to medicine, and 5 years I finished, went back to Lagos, told them to tell the director there was a Dr. Okorodudu at the entrance. When he saw me, he said, "You mean went back to medicine?" And I said, "Sure, I went back to."
You
kind of nice.
Had your
surprise.
Sir, you went back to study medicine. Now you had a young family, as you said. You opened the Farmville in Benin. How were you able to manage all these responsibilities, academic, being a medical student, having a young family, and managing your pharmacy company?
The key thing really is that I'm sure I was lucky. I got a good wife, so she was a strong backbone, so I knew I could leave the business to her. So I left the business to her. I still looked into the business, but because I knew this was what I wanted to do, I had to pursue it. Med school was not necessarily easy, but at this time I had gotten almost like a mature student. The first time I got into university, I was about 18. Now I was about 28. So I was actually a mature student. So being able to maneuver my way around was quite easy. And I had always had the mindset, and this is where I want to encourage the younger ones who are coming. Anybody who bothers to become a teacher or a lecturer wants you to pass. Because at the back of his mind, if his students are passing, that means he's imparting to them the requisite knowledge is supposed to be. So I always go to anything I'm doing in life with that the people want you to succeed. So if I go to any of those exams, I always knew they wanted people to pass. And because I had that mindset, I will always pass. That's how it's always been with me. Secondary school, all through my life, I always know this will want people to pass. If they want 10 people to pass, I'll be amongst the 10. If they want 5, I'll be amongst the 5. If they want 1, it's got to be me. So I always had that positive mindset. And it is what every young person should do. The opportunity to get educated is a one-time shot. Once they have educated, nobody can take it away again. But if you go into school and you cut corners and you don't get educated, when you come out, it becomes difficult. But anybody who gets a proper education will somehow be able to showcase his skills to meet whatever the need is that is in front of him. So it's always good for them to know your lecturers want you to pass. You don't have to do any of these funny things they call blocking, or that's nonsense because you're cheating yourself. Do the work, bear the pain. By the time you come out, you're all rounded and you're good.
Yeah, that's very correct, sir. Still talking about your time in Uniben, sir. What you spent about 10 years, getting 2 degrees at the university. What are the lessons you learned? What can you say Uniben taught you outside your certification, outside the Bachelor of Pharmacy and the MBBS?
Rather, I will face the question this way. What has been the benefit of the education I got from the university? You know, the reason why I'm facing it this way is that I'm looking at what we have as what we have facing us as a nation now. You know, when I finished medicine, I didn't practice medicine. I continued doing business. Actually completely veered off medical line. I went into engineering. I was doing electrification. I was doing road constructions and all. But something kept on bothering me. Every time I had to go meet some business partners, either in the UK or in America, there was always one prayer in my mind. Please let nobody fall ill here. And they say, is there a doctor on board? Because I wasn't practicing. I knew if that situation arose, I will not be able to help that passenger. So it always bothered me. And I would always think, what then is the benefit of your education to your community? This also drawing from the fact that my father always told me that, look here, young man, you studied 2 great professions, pharmacy and medicine, but you're not practicing any of it too. You're doing business. It's not good. You need to apply what you have trained for the benefit of your people from whom you've come. You know, he says, do you think it is by chance that you got trained as a doctor and as a pharmacist? There must be a justification for that, and there must be a reason for your life. And I always thought about it. What is the benefit of this education that I have gotten to my people? But I continue to do business. Now, I tell you the reason why I stayed on the business track was because my family was young. I set out very, very early when most people were still trying to say, let me get this, get that. I got married and I started raising children. My children grew on me so fast. By the time I knew it, my kids were 16, 17. They needed to go to school abroad. They had gone, so I needed more money to be able to cope with these things. But I thank God we were able to go through all of that. So eventually my old man died. When I went to see my old man and I saw him on his deathbed, the thought that came to me was that, look here, what is the benefit of all of this you've done? Popsy is lying down, then he's dead. You must go back and practice medicine. You see, the Dr. Okorodudu you see today actually became a doctor when my father died. So I went back home. I told my wife the second time I was shocking the girl, I said, I'm not doing business anymore. So what are you going to do now? I said, I'm going to go back to do medicine. That's what I am. That's what I want to do. And then I went back, did a program in ophthalmology. And I will tell you, I have never been as fulfilled and as happy as I've been now that I'm practicing medicine. My units used to be in millions when I was doing business. But now patients come to me and they're giving me 2,000, 3,000. But I'm able to help them. You know, the satisfaction is so much more, you know. So when I look at the journey and then what the university gave to me, if when I went into the university, I didn't get the education I was supposed to get, when it was time for me to go back, it would have been difficult for me to do that. So I feel a wealth of gratitude to the university for what they did for me. They educated me. I can stand anywhere in the world and feel the comfort that at least in front of them stands a doctor. Not like I felt when I was doing business and I didn't know what I was doing, but now at least in the arena where I practice, I'm able to do good.
Yeah. Let's talk about your foundation, sir. In 2010, if I'm correct, your foundation was established. What was
2009, sorry.
2009? Okay,
That's what we really started, yeah.
Okay. What was the motivating factor? What was the motivation behind the establishment of your foundation, the Africa Cataract Eye Foundation?
Yes, that's a good one. When I finished medicine, truth it was that I actually wanted to do obstetrics. But by the time I finally did business and was going to go back into medicine, I was almost 50. And at that age, I knew I couldn't stand the rigors of doing night calls and all that. So eventually I opted for one that I really could control the practice. That was how come, because it was my second choice, really, ophthalmology. But when I got into it, it reminded me of way back then when I was in med school. When I wanted to go back into med school, I needed a business I could do that would fund me through med school. And I said, what part of medicine? I was doing pharmacy, right? I said, what part of medicine can I go into? And I said, set up a dental clinic. I set up a dental clinic in Benin. The reason why I set the dental clinic was I said, anybody that has a toothache will want that tooth attended to no matter what, and they'll pay the money. So I set that up. That saw me practically really through med school. But when I went back to ophthalmology, and I remember I was discussing this with my wife the other day. You need, first of all, to see those who are blind. You need to just be around those who are blind. Then you will not ask me this question. When somebody begins to lose their vision, become blind, or when you have to look after a parent who is blind, it's a different ballgame. Anyone who is blind, if we don't get to them on time, the poverty that ensues after that possibly may take their lives in 10 years. They will die. I then saw it that, look, you're an old guy. I was in my 50s. Majority of those who are becoming blind are people like me. Something needed to be done. As I went in the course, you'll notice that out here in the West, where we all are now, you rarely see anybody with a dense cataract. That means the white one you see, the one the Benin called Ukbogo, the one the Ubigo, all those kind of things. You don't see anybody with Ukbogo here. But they have cataracts. Some of them have cataracts, but just it's not as dense as ours. That really challenged me. Why are we going to leave our people to suffer blindness for this length? Because for that thing to become that dense, that means that person must have been carrying that thing for years, most times. So you may have been blind for 3, 4, 5 years. You know how many life years you've taken out of that person's life. And then I realized, I looked at it and I said, these are surgeries that are really not too long. You're going to do this surgery for like 10, 15 minutes. The person starts to see again. You practically just change their life. And I'm looking at this, I'm remembering what Jesus did in the Bible with blind Bartimaeus when he made him see. And the man just started jumping and screaming at everybody, I can see. That's basically what happens. The work I do is so fulfilling. The people I work with are most times really so poor that they can't help themselves. For me to be able to help them is why I keep going back all the time.
Yeah. You just mentioned the state of these people that you do help. How are you able to get funding? Because recently I saw the one you did in Delta State in collaboration with the Palace of the Olu of Warri and the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. So how is the funding like for you, sir, to carry out these charitable ventures?
Yeah, So everything I keep saying, I keep coming back to my wife, and I have her to thank for what we have done this 14, 16 years going, because if she didn't encourage me to use of our funds, I would not have been able to get where we are today. The beginning years were very tough, I must tell you. It meant that we had to deprive ourselves of a lot of the things we normally would say we need, but which we really don't need. And then we plowed our resources into working with communities. The model I chose was lucky. I chose what they call a cross-subsidy model to be able to help the people. So there are some villages I can go to and I'm able to do all the surgeries for them for free. Other villages I'm able to get partnering with a community member or a church or something, and they will meet us some way. And at times the villagers themselves will contribute something. Cross-subsidy model is always a beautiful way to be able to do this thing. So we were able to carry this work on for a long time. But now I'm in my 60s. I'm semi-retired. That's the way I look at myself now. So I'm doing the foundation work more and more. And the clinical aspect of my work is not what I am too excited about anymore. So what we do is this. When we want to do projects, we do right. At times, we're fortunate to be able to get a good partnership like we did with the Palace of Biulu of Warri. As soon as he came on board, that happens to be where I'm from. That's my king. So I chose when he became king. I was so pleased that such a highly qualified prince, such eminence had come to the throne. And I said, look, every year when he's celebrating his anniversary, I will do this number of surgeries, most times 100 plus. So I done it 1, 2. This last one we did last year was the third one. That's the third coronation anniversary. I was fortunate also to get partnering from the Federal Ministry of Health. They gave me 1,000 reading glasses from the president's lot. We call it Jikipola. So this time when I went, it was tough for me again. I traveled back home, spent money on flights. So fortunately, he gave me audience. So I'm standing in front of the king and I said, look, sir, this is tough for me and my wife. My wife's sitting by me. You need to support us. So he looks at me and said, oh, you need support, doctor? I said, yes. How much do you need? He said, how much is a surgery? And I said, for the number I'm doing, I can do one surgery for $35. I said, $35? Are you sure? I said, yes, sir, $35. So you want to do 100? So I said, yes, okay, we'll give you $3,500. So he actually gave us that money for that particular one. So I'm grateful to the king for what he did. So that's how we really get funding. But you go onto the field, you want to do 100, you end up doing 150. But these people are blind. They come in front of you, you can't send them back. You still have to do it. So by the time you want to finish your work, the $35 becomes almost $25 per surgery. But it's okay. We're able to sell. So I'm praying that eventually someday my country will get to a place whereby people who are rich will realize that they owe something back to the communities from where they come and fund endeavors like that. I'm not saying fund me. If you can fund other people who are working, then that will be good. But at least if you now look at it, you're saying you want to do a cataract surgery, and a cataract surgery becomes as cheap as $25. I don't see why somebody who has money shouldn't fund that kind of endeavor. Because you're really doing immense good. I'm telling you, when somebody sees again, it's not a joke. You've completely changed his whole life. It's a new lease of life. A man who that was poor starts to earn income again, and he doesn't need us anymore.
Thank you so much, sir, for all you do. And still on your foundation, how do you identify and also prioritize individuals and communities your foundation they serve? How do you identify these individuals?
Okay. The foundation actually chose to work in the Niger Delta area. Because I'm from the rivers, I'm Shekiri, and most of my people live inside the crates. When these works came, I remember when I was studying as an ophthalmologist, I told them then that I'm going to be a rural riverine doctor. I will work for the people of the creeks. I will not sit in the city center. I will go to them in the creeks. But I needed to make a plan. So I made a plan for 1 million people in 7 local governments. 6 of them happens to be in Delta State where I'm from. And the only riverine one that was in Edo, where I stay, happens to be of Via Southwest. So I capped that one into
governments.
That's your local government.
Yes.
Good for you. So I capped that into it, and those people now became my target population. So we just and then the name of the project was a Three Rivers Project, because in the Niger Delta, inside the Delta, in my Delta state, there are three major rivers that feed back into the Atlantic Ocean: the Forcados River, Escravos River, and the Benin River. So it was very simple. All I just did was start from Sapele and walked up to the Atlantic Ocean. And I stayed in Warri. The Sapele, Benin River, Atlantic Ocean. Warri, Escravos River, Atlantic Ocean. Forcados River, Atlantic Ocean. So as I went down, I just went down all these communities and started to walk. So I basically have gone down all those rivers and walked in all of those places. But I'll tell you something. Those places are so beautiful, you won't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
The life there, it's so serene and peaceful. Whenever I go out in the rivers, I don't want to come back. But of course, I have to come back.
Yeah, okay, thank you, sir. Lastly, sir, how do your skills as a pharmacist and also a medical doctor contribute to the effectiveness of your eye care initiatives?
Okay. As a medical doctor, I think I am very fortunate, because when we're making drugs as pharmacists, the key thing we want to do, once we've identified the target organ or tissue we want to deliver our medications to, you want to make sure that that drug gets delivered to that site. So now that I'm practicing medicine, the patient is in front of me. I want them to heal. I've noticed that the gap is between the doctor's office and the pharmacy department. If you give them the right information, which most times the doctors don't have the patience to do, by the time they get to pharmacy, if they are lucky and they meet a good pharmacist, they will be told what to do. But if those drugs, like we do back home, and they just pack those and dump in your hands, then you are not treating these patients. Now, for my eye work, I noticed that the problem these people have is that they don't apply their eye drops the way they are supposed to apply them. You give it to them and they just pop it, pump, pour it down the eyelids, eyelashes, and in no time they reinfect themselves and they can get in trouble. So my training as a pharmacist then doubles in and helps me, and I spend the time and I tell them what they have to do. But first, for you to do that, you have to first do a good surgery and then make sure they deliver. The two of them actually really marries well for me, and I'm very happy.
Thank you, sir. During the course of the conversation, you mentioned that I just want to clear that you met your wife in Uniben.
Oh, yes.
Was she your classmate?
Not my classmate, not at all.
Okay.
My wife read sociology.
Okay, so how was it? Your relationship did not end in main gates. You actually took it beyond the main gates and got married to her. How were you able to do all this at that very early stage?
I don't know. Maybe I was just lucky. I saw this girl and I knew I was going to marry her, and I went and I saw her, and we're married now for like 3 years.
Oh.
We've been blessed. We're very lucky. We have 4 kids, 5 grandchildren. Our oldest grandchild is already in university. That's the benefit of getting married on time.
Yeah.
So and so yeah, I actually will advise anybody, if you do find a good woman, then marry, and pray to God that she continues to be good, because there's nothing a man requires as much as a good partner. I fortunate to find one. Most people, to yourself, most other people find good wives too. As a young man, open yourself, look out. That wife which is yours is always there. Once you find her, marry her. Trust that she will believe in you, and then provide for them.
Thank you very much, sir. It has been wonderful talking with you, sir. Thank you very much.
I must thank you too. You don't what you do is remarkable. Your countenance, your approach to your interviews. I watched a couple of your interviews. I think you strike me as a very good person. So maybe someday I'm sure we will meet. Please don't stop this work. I spoke to you off camera, but I possibly will mention it here. Let what we do be an emphasis on value.
Definitely.
When you want to do your interviews, yes, money is good. Recognize people who have made money, but also search out people who add value to our society. It could be teachers, they could be principals, they could be police officers. But it's always good. The reason why our society is falling apart is that people don't have good role models. And we're not getting people who are in front to mentor those who are coming behind. Or programs like yours, because of the feedbacks you get, you must be able to ask people who come in for the interviews whether they will be ready to provide mentorship.
Yes.
So that most of the young ones who are coming, we can sign them on for mentorship. If they are told the values of things, really, most of them will not fall into these vices which we find our society is falling into, whereby you see a child is ready to say, I'll make money at all costs. No, they don't have to do that. Because there is nobody of all the rich ones I've seen up to this age where I am, not one of them carried any of those monies away. We need to teach them, when you make money, put it to things of value, so that people who are coming, the community that comes behind you, all those great-grandchildren, they will have a good country to come into. We started my interview with what the University of Benin was when I entered.
Yeah.
You can just imagine how far we have fallen where it is now. That is because people are not giving back to their institution. Whereas people can actually, the wealthy ones can actually go and adopt a hall in the university. And every year they put a sum aside that helps in the maintenance of that hall. You are in a very pivotal position, my young man. This is maybe something that I'm asking you to do now. But find a way for you to be able to do it
already.
Thank you.
It's actually
I'm happy
in our
with you.
position to do those things. We need to give back to our alma mater, which has given us a lot. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate you taking time for this interview.
Please be sure I will join you in whatever initiatives you do put forward. If you want to do any of these intervention initiatives in your obvious efforts, let me know.
Thank you very much.
I will come with you, and I will send
that's
you.
Very strong commitment, sir. God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you.
Yes. Yeah. I've been speaking with Dr. Gabriel Okorodudu. He's the founder of Africa Cataract Eye Foundation. A wonderful man, someone who inspires a lot of people with the work he does. He's also the medical director of the Eye Hospital and managing director of Farmview Limited. Continue to subscribe to this channel. We'll bring you more exclusive interviews of Uniben alumni. Thank you.
1970, we sure we did the forefront. Knowledge for service, for sure we did the work. Auditorium to basement of all faculty of law.